say this though. I say this in full knowledge, knowing that Mark spent hour upon hour adapting the stories when the first set of the new trilogy came out to match everything that we'd learned about the new trilogy. And we've deliberately skipped whole regions of timeline because we've not had sort of like, the full detail on it yet. Knowing, whether things are canon or not.
God.
Oh, dear. Yeah. I mean, there are times when, as a writer, without having the full details, you're stuffed.
Big time.
So we took the decision that we'd leave the Star Wars universe per se alone with regard to the main characters and what was going on.
And do our own thing.
Which is why the Setnin sector's so big, really, I think.
Yeah.
It's sort of like its own mini galaxy. Its own rules, its own government.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never really been in touch with the rest of the Galactic Republic or the Empire or whatever. I mean, the Empire were there for a while.
The Empire was there, certainly, but I always loved the one little excuse we made in the stories for, we've got a planet called Janos, which is it's basically a warrior planet, and Janos really would have made great soldiers for the Empire, but it just didn't. We tried to do stories and it just didn't fit, and I think there was a part of us thought, would the Empire really want this planet because it's just so much trouble? And in the end that worked its way into the plot, and it was like basically the Empire just thought this planet's not worth the hassle because all we'll do is flatten it. It won't show anyone, teach anyone a lesson because the Jedites have got nothing to do with anybody else anyway. It was just a one-off. And I don't know whether it was in the chronology or in a story somewhere, but basically I'd written the scene, very rare because I don't like to write about the established characters, but basically the Emperor was saying to an aide, basically, leave it alone, it's not worth the effort. Now that may sound
More
very...
matters.
Exactly. That may sound very atypical for the Emperor. Oh, the Emperor wouldn't say that. But you've just got to think sometimes, well...
It wasn't in his big scheme of things. It didn't mean anything to him.
Of course it wasn't.
He was busy looking for the, for whatever was going to happen next. He was still worried about what was happening with the rest of the Jedi.
I mean, plenty of planets in the Setnin sector were taken by the Empire. Some of them weren't. Some offered themselves and some resisted. So.
Some offered themselves and then bribed their way out of it.
Yeah.
Amiga.
Yeah. Adesanda. I mean, that was in with the Empire.
Yeah. It's one of those things, let's face it, it can take as long to get across the Setnin sector because all the different bits and pieces in the Setnin sector you have to navigate around, that it can get across half the galaxy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is why a lot of the sector's never been conquered, because it's such a pain in the arse to get through.
Yeah, there's all these gravitational anomalies and dangerous parts of the sector.
Yeah, not as bad as the Kessel Run, but there's still areas you wouldn't want to take anything.
Well, I mean, it's like next to Setnin, they've got the Brother sector, which is fairly benign. You've got the Karkar sector, which we're at war with. You've got the Quashnell sector, which is just the most dangerous place to navigate that I know of. So there's, and there's only a couple of people who've even got inroads into the Quashnell sector. I think getting into the Quashnell sector is like getting into the Moor. It's that difficult, so it's, what's the point?
I think Yanlaman's probably one of the only people that's got a full route through there, hasn't he?
He's got a route. He doesn't go there because it doesn't work for anybody that goes in there, but he has got a route, yeah. But Dressel was the guy that had the routes into the Quashnell sector. That's why him and Glam fell out.
Yeah.
Well, not the reason, but another reason why they don't get on. So, which will be explored further. I'd like to get John more involved with that.
Well, I mean, getting John involved is one of the things that we have occasional problems with, but I mean, John is he's one of the highest contributing writers at the time.
Oh yeah.
Saying that, I mean, I think some of your stories are coming up close to the number that he's done now, aren't they?
Probably, but because I've continued doing it, whereas John's got other fish to fry, so which is fine. But as far as creating stuff, then he's still the top dog, definitely. Yeah. The amount of role play.
What we should explain again in a little bit more detail is that the Setnin sector and all the characters are based on role-playing games that were played from, when was it, 1980?
Well, that's sort of true. The very first story was written in 1982, and that's where Jan Lamona was created, and Adesando.
And you were still a school kid, weren't you?
I was 10. 11. It was May, so I was 11. And then I wrote a couple of sequels to that. Then I moved to Lichfield and met John. And then me and John started doing audio cassettes. And that's when it really expanded, because the audio cassettes really took it off. We did probably 20 audio cassettes, audio stories. That's when we started to write all these things down, and we started to get, because we had a tape making company basically called NHP. We used to do all comedy tapes and stuff, but we did a lot of Star Wars ones. We got very heavily into the Star Wars stuff. And of course, me and John, when I moved to Lichfield, he was pretty much the first friend I made, and he liked Star Wars, I liked Star Wars, so we bonded over that. And we did all these cassettes. Then we started to write stuff. I think we both started working on a couple of stories that overlapped with each other. And then in '87, I think me and John went into Birmingham at the old Games Workshop when it was in the Palisades. And that was the year, the 10th anniversary. That's when West End Games released the game, the role-play game.
And that's when things started to kick off?
Yeah, big time. So John bought the game, and then within a year or so, me, John, Paul, obviously had moved back to the country then, so me, John and Paul role-played. John and Paul role-played an awful lot. I probably role-played once a week, maybe twice. Yeah. I know John was role-playing various games, because John and Paul used to do MERP, and they did Warhammer, they did an awful lot of Star Wars. And then other people started playing, Nick Gilmore, obviously, and Dave Shields and Paul Gilbert and all those guys started, Rob Olds and Phil Thompson, all those guys were role-playing. But I know John at one point was probably role-playing, he'll tell you, he was probably role-playing 5 nights a week, different systems. And the role-play went full bore. Well, I mean, obviously, we got to know you, well, that's how I got to know you through role-playing.
Absolutely.
It went full bore from probably 88 to 90 was like the primo. There's an awful lot of stuff on the website that came from the role-play games we did in 88 to 90.
Okay.
A lot of the Amagad stuff was fleshed out. And the thing about Amagad is that, and the characters, is that, because John was the main GM, a lot of the characters he came up with, but an awful lot of characters Paul came up with, because Paul GM'd a lot.
Yeah.
And it was mainly situations that Paul influenced, not so much characters and places, but situations. And a lot of obviously it's role play, so it's done on the fly. A lot of the role play stuff was lost,
So luckily, some notes were taken.
Well, a lot of notes were taken, and obviously most characters, even NPCs, have character sheets with descriptions. So that's where a lot of if you go on the website and it says RPG, it's a role play character. It came from a role play game. That's one of the sources. Or if it says NHP, it was written to be in a story, or it was a character that was created but it was just never used. But that would have been during the time of me and John doing our stuff. And then, obviously, the role-play started to tail off around about mid-90s. Obviously, we stopped doing the Sunday nights and so on. And then, of course, the internet thing started to take off. So then, it went from there. And because I got my computer in 98, and then first thing I wrote was songs that
I built it.
That's the one you built me.
I think I built them ever since.
You have? Every single one.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's where it's come from. Yeah. But it's funny, it's funny that John came up with Amagad, for example. He made that his base. Amagad, the Fortress, Glansipple.
It's a good character to create for a role-playing game.
Oh, God,
He was the guy that gave everyone their orders and told them where to go, sort of thing. He took the place of the GM in many respects, didn't he?
He did. But Glansipple was actually, before the role-play, Glansipple was in the NHP cassettes. But John used to do, me and John used to do the thing where John would come up with a character and he'd write down, I remember once, 1986, we were doing something called the NHP New Universe. And in there we were going to do 2 new audio series. They were going to be series as well. We were going to do a Hellrunner core, and we were going to do something called Chatroot and the Hellrunners. Yeah, you know about Chatroot, who's coming into the stories now. But Chatroot was then basically what he is now, this character with all these people that work for him. And he was a bit like the A-Team. And John wrote down a list, a sheet of paper with just names and ideas that we could use. And the one thing he wrote down was the Setnin sector, S-E-T-L-I-N, Setnin sector. And the other thing he wrote down was Glansipple, but it was Sipple with an S. Yeah. So I always used to take what he'd write down all these character names, and then I'd write down pages of character names. But what I always used to do, I always used to write them down just a little bit different, just a little bit unusual. I'd put an extra A in, or I'd put a, you know what I mean? Or I'd spell something with a Y instead of a J, And I'd just make it visually look a bit more interesting written on the page. So that means that stands out to me. So there's loads of things that John would write down that I'd sort of take and I'd tweak it a bit. So I'm sure that's where Setnin came from, because I've still got the details upstairs. Loads of things like that. But like Amagad, for example, Gland's Fortress, on the bay. So John designed it. Amagad and Amagad City was in a bay.
Yeah.
And then as the stories go on, we decided it was on the. Well, I think it was me that said it was built on an extinct volcano. So I named the extinct volcano, and then I named all the buildings that went down the side of the volcano, and the regions like of the city, and the fact that it's surrounded. It's a horseshoe bay.
Yeah.
Surrounded by cliffs. John did a role-play game where his character Goa tried to commit suicide, and he ditched his ship in the sea. It was a role-play game, and he ditched his ship in the sea trying to top himself, but he couldn't, because at the time he was playing the Choreophanax clone of Goa Galetti, the one with the Choreophanax DNA, and Gland wouldn't let him kill himself. So he was angry because he knew he was wrong. He knew he shouldn't be. And at that time, what had happened was John had played the original Goa in the cassettes. He played him on cassette, just like a young smuggler. So Yen and Goa were very similar. Because I actually came up with the name Goa. John came up with the name Galetti, but I came up with the name Goa. And then he role-played him again. He was a bit darker. And then he role-played him again. He completely scrapped the previous version of Goa. I started again with Goa. And he did him as a clone with his Choreophanax DNA. So from there, it just went on and on and on. So,
which is interesting, really, because when it came to actually doing the timeline for the Setnin Sector on the web, both clones were involved. Well, the original and the clone was
that's
involved.
right. Because it took when he looked at the stories, because I didn't want to change what we'd done of the audio stuff, because the last audio tape was in '89, and when I started doing the guides, it was like '99 or '98. So that had been fixed, and the role-play games were based on that continuity. The role-play games were based on the NHP stuff, basically, which in turn were based on stuff that me and John had written, and then everything came, like Chansai was invented in '83 in the Lydon Legacy, which I've still not written up as a modern story.
Which you've got to do.
I know I have. Because I keep saying to people, when people ask me online, I've only been writing Star Wars stories, so I wrote my first one in '82. I'd love to read that. I've got it written down as I wrote it down in 1982. Actually, no, I haven't got the original version of Quest for Freedom. I've got it's the second draft and the third and the fourth and onwards. I think it's about 6 drafts of it. But
so one day when you're famous, that's going to work.
Wouldn't
be like the lyrics for the Beatles album.
Yeah, you reckon?
Yeah. What can I?
You never know. But yeah, there's a lot of history. So what's on the website? If somebody came along and they didn't know and they just looked at it, they'd just think, oh, there's a lot there, isn't there? 1,060 characters, that's cool. But
if anyone even gets in that far, because I think one of the things is people look at the web page and they start to sort of like cruise around. But I think there's a lot of depth on there that's missed by a lot of people that visit the site.
Yeah, I'd love to think that some people do come in and have a really good look. I mean, obviously, we try and make the website as accessible as possible to everybody. Obviously Star Wars fans, but by the same token, it's very, very personal. There's a lot of stuff up there that was done in the 80s that I fully intend to scan on and put in. Now, not front and centre on the middle of the website, but I'd love it to be in there, and there's room for it.
I mean, even things like the various section now are expanding outwards. We've got, we haven't got all the stories up again yet.
Not yet. We're not far off though. It's coming on.
We should explain about that really. That we redesigned the site. How long ago was it now?
February. We relaunched in March.
So it was last year, was it?
No, we went. No. Last year was a slow year for us, and we went offline in August. I think the last thing that was announced on the website, the old lightsaber, the previous incarnation, was the title Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. Which
I was very pleased, because 6 months before they announced it was going to be called Revenge of the Sith, in our chronology section, I'd actually written it down as Revenge of the Sith, so I was quite pleased about that. Pure guess. And then the site went off, so from, I think it was September through till February this year, it wasn't updated at all. And to be honest, after doing it full on for sort of 5 years, I was quite glad of the break.
Yeah.
And it gave me a bit of time to write some stuff and get some ideas. And then, of course, you and me did that redesign on that one night with the 2 bottles of red wine. Good night.
Absolutely. We're going to have to do that again very soon.
Definitely.
The winter edition of the
That's it. But I mean, it just came out looking so good, and it's energised me. And like I say, I could pretty confidently say that apart from the official site, we're the only site that updates every day.
Yeah.
I could say that
because I have to say that the ForceNet okay, guys, when there was a run-up to episode 3, you were kicking ass, but
Big time.
big time. But as soon as episode 3 came out, it's like everyone went to sleep.
Well, not only that. I mean,
Yeah.
I used to have dealings with a lady there called Brittany.
Mhm.
Never met her, never seen a photograph of her, don't know what she's like. But as far as contact through the internet goes, she was an absolute diamond. And if we had if we had an interview on Lightsaber, I'd email Brittany and she'd post it up. When Brittany disappeared, the only person I could get through to was, I think it's Justin or Dustin and Josh Giffen. And they didn't want to know. They didn't want to post mentions of it. Now, Joe Caroni, but he's already said when the interview goes up, let him know, because he'll tell Forcenet and he might even tell the official site, so we might get some coverage out of that. But as far as the Forcenet's concerned, they're just, I don't want to knock them, because I've got a link to them off the front page, and it's the first place to go. It is the first place you go. You know, you're going to get more news from the Forcenet. Pre-episode 3, I learned much more through the Forcenet than I did through the official site.
Yeah.
Because the official site's an advertising tool, really.
It still is an art
It's a great site, but it's a way to get to the shop. It's a way to get you to sign up to hyperspace.
And even when you're in hyperspace, there's so many links for the different things you can buy and see. And you know, again, not knocking it. There's an awful lot of useful information. I love the behind the scenes stuff that was on when episode 3 was being made. You know,
I'm looking at you on now. You've got a hyperspace t-shirt.
I am.
You
Yeah,
know?
I've got a hyperspace t-shirt.
And there's nothing wrong with the official site. I love the new blogs. The blogs are
Brilliant
such
idea.
a good idea.
And I've been reading those for hours on end.
Yeah.
And believe me, when you've got 4,700 words to write before the end of the week, reading things like that for hours on end, it's not a good thing.
Not a good thing.
No.
But I mean, the official site is fantastic, and it looks great. The databank's good. I'll give it that. It's not amazing, but it's good.
It could be better.
Visually, it's
Take notes.
Visually,
It could be better. There could be more information on it.
Take
Take a look at our site, the way that we've done it. Learn from us.
Blimey, there you go. Sounds just like Jack Blackman.
I know.
But yeah,
Where's my guitar?
their web docs and the Null Vision and all the little select style things that they do.
Love the multimedia stuff. Just wish they'd pay more attention to the background stuff.
Yeah. But I think they're setting up that official site with a view in the future to have on internet premieres. You know, they could do TV episodes stream it to the internet.
Well, they already have.
Yeah.
Clone Wars.
True, yeah, but it's already shown on the telly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I take your point. Yeah, and I can see the hyperspace doing stuff like that, having animation people do stuff like that, and then when they've got enough episodes, just stick it on DVD. We'll buy it, nicely packaged.
We'll buy it. If it looks good, if it plays good, if it's got a good story,
yeah,
we'll buy it.
Definitely.
Make it look pretty, we'll buy it anyway.
Yeah.
So no. Episode 3, video.
Yes, episode 3 video.
Don't do it for the States, fine. Do it us.
Yeah,
Region
just
2.
for me.
Region 2.
Yes. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go out and make my own video cover.
I'm not even sure your crayon drawing skills are that good yet.
No? You don't reckon?
No.
You'd be surprised.
No, probably. Okay, we're going to leave it at that for the moment. We might come back to it later. We might come back to it another day, because I think we're just about knackered now.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and we've waffled on for ages. So instead of keeping you bored, we'll keep you on your toes. Things you want to mention next time? Upcoming stories? Get a bit more detail?
Yeah, we'll get more detail on the upcoming stories.
I'll have seen Serenity by then.
So will I, sir. So we'll have that to talk about.
We'll have a review of that.
Yeah. Setnin Selects, we'll have a chat about that.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we need some more doing.
All right then. I've done 3.
Oh, good. That'll help. Yeah, and there's bound to be other things that we can turn our attentions to.
Yes.
Fantastic.
We might even talk about them and actually edit them into this and cut out the crap, but we'll see.
Well, we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see. Yeah, we'll leave you with 20 seconds of really good stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Brilliant.
Well, that's it for now. So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from here.
Good night.